Hi guys, EG here. I am all better from my jet lag and slight cold, so we're gonna get back to the regular schedule of videos about writing. This week's topic is world building. There are all sorts of different types of world building for different types of things. If you're doing a fiction, sci-fi, fantasy novel, you're going to be doing different types of world building than if you were doing a romance novel or a mystery novel set in the real world. So the various different types of world building are this world with very minor differences. This could be a neighborhood that doesn't exist at the moment, or everything else is the same and you're just inputting your characters. So there's very minor differences and you hardly notice it at all. There's also a different time period, but set in this world. So that would be things like Jane Austen Regency era, or medieval times, or the 1920s. Any one of those is a distinct possibility for different time periods set in this world. Okay, then you've gotten to the more complicated things, which include a completely different world, say sci-fi style where you're on another planet, or fantasy novel style where there is just a different world entirely and you've got magic and different continents, etc. But then there's also this world with either a different time period or different elements, like medieval times, but we have dragons, which is kind of weird and cool. Or there's an alternate universe where everything developed the same except for one major event, like Philip K. Dick's The Man in the High Castle, where everything is the same until World War II when we lost. There are lots of different ways you can go about that. For doing world building, there are a lot of different things to consider. You have to consider, does the world work pretty much the exact same way as this world? If you're writing in this world, then everything's going to be the same. You're going to have the same laws, you're going to have the same physics, you're going to have the same technology. So you have to consider these things. If you've got a different world, then you're going to have maybe different laws. Maybe buying ice cream on Tuesdays is illegal, which is depressing but possible. Or maybe the technology has developed way past the point where we are at the moment and you have flying cars, which would be also terrible. I hate flying. Or the other way around, where technology hasn't developed and we're still using typewriters. So you have to consider things like the rules of nature. Does physics work in the same way? Does water flow uphill? That sort of thing. Then you've got if you're creating a completely different world, you're going to have different cultures, you're going to have different people, you're going to have maybe languages that are different, which is, my wheelhouse, or you're going to have different religions. So you have to figure out how these things interact, how the different people know each other, but you can't, technically you could just have a world where everything is homogenized, but that doesn't make for a very interesting story. So you have to consider that in the real world, we have different cultures and different ideas and different religions and different people. And likely in whatever world you've created, you're going to have different cultures and different people and different ideas and different religions and different languages. And these are all going to interact and work together. So you have to figure out how that works. You have to consider all of these things sort of first outside of your novel. And then when you actually get to writing your novel, there are a few things that you need to figure out. There are a couple of problems that can come when world building inside a novel, especially when you're creating a completely different world. The first one is not enough information. When you're writing a novel that's set in the real world, you don't really need to explain things because people already know how it works. We already know what phones are. We know how technology works. We know how an Uber works or a taxi or whatever. We don't need to know these new things. But if you're in a different world entirely, I don't know how these things work. Like the Star Trek communicators, is it just a walkie-talkie type of thing, or can they do more? Or the tricorders, which I really want. How do these things work? We don't know these rules. Is it socially acceptable to get into a taxi with someone who's like a foot taller than you? I don't know. So you have to make sure that we know these things. The more important things that we need to know are usually how the society works. Who's in charge? How do people move about their day? Are automobiles banned? Why? That sort of a thing is rather important. You can throw your reader straight into things and hope they figure it out as they go along in the story, but if you don't provide enough of these little details, then there are going to be bits and pieces missing, and that feels very weird when reading a story. Like, okay, I have no idea how the character got to this world or what they think about this world because I don't actually know anything about this world. Now, that can lead into another problem, which is too much information. Usually the info dumps come at the very beginning in the forms of the prologues or the exposition in chapter 1 and 2, that sort of thing. Now these info dumps usually or can include things like political history that has absolutely nothing to do with the modern story, or technology explanations, or how a heat sink engine works. I don't need to know this. I don't need to know how these things work to understand the novel. But personally, I like how these things work. That just comes outside of the story itself. So basically, you're just explaining the things that are going to be different between your world and the one the reader inhabits. And you also need to worry about what's relevant to the story. Is the technology relevant to the story? Yes? Great. Include some explanation, but not too much. Is the political history relevant to the story? No? Discard. With world building in your story, there's always a happy middle. It can be hard to reach, but that's why you go and you talk to beta readers, or you say, okay, get rid of everything, all the dialogue. How much information about my world do I have? Do I understand everything about the world with all of this information? Because if I do, that's probably slightly too much. Do I understand nothing about the world? And it's probably too little. Now these are the pitfalls that can come with world building, but you also have to consider that world building is huge amounts of fun. Personally, I love creating worlds where things are either mostly the same, like in my urban fantasy Cat's Paw, where everything is exactly the same until my main character goes and steps into the supernatural world and realizes this all exists underneath what I've been looking at. How? So what I've done there is I've drawn on a lot of Celtic mythology and a lot of different other mythology from different places around the world. And then I've also taken my own ideas about how magic works and how creatures might look and how characters would interact, and I have taken that and put that into my novel. For my sci-fi story though, I've set the world on an entirely different planet. Now this different world has actually been a huge part of a fair amount of my stories. So I have set things in the same universe, and maybe different time periods though. So I have a whole history, I have a whole folklore, I have cultures, I've got different languages that have interacted, I have major historical events, etc. So there are a lot of different things that you can do with world building. Mine is only a very small snippet of some of the problems with too little information and too much information. I've read some stories where, okay, everything is wonderful, I just want to know a little bit more. And I've read some stories where, okay, I really don't need to know anything. It just depends on what sort of story you're writing. For science fiction and fantasy, usually you need a whole lot more world building than you would do for a murder mystery novel. So I would really love to know how you guys go about doing world building, or what you think about world building, or some of your favorite world building techniques. This can be from video games or stories, movies, etc. Please tell me everything. I would love to know it all. Leave a comment below, and if you're interested in talking more about this, you can email me through my website, or you can go and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.